1. I mean, that's just like magic. I mean, it's, they were playing so well. So it's a long season, though, as we saw the last couple games. It's tough to keep that level all the time when you're playing. They were playing at such a high level. So, but just giving a taste of how good we can be, and it's going to, I think come down to the team we're playing tonight, to get out of the East, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see. And just like every year, I think at the NBA level, whoever's healthiest going into the playoffs at the end of the year is such an advantage. So trying to continue playing well, winning games, but at the same time trying to stay healthy for East. So we'll see. But they're giving themselves a lot of room for growth, for sure.
Speaking of growth, I always say that the Cavs don't get to the championship in 2016 if it wasn't for the Miracle in Beachville for your generation, the team that everybody compared the current team was to your generation. And you just mentioned something about the Celtics and beating them in the playoff, which I think that's when the bragging rights get negated, right? After the night it's a win or a lesson, like I always say. It's not a loss, but what is the hardest part for a player at that level, for all of us humans that think we play basketball? What's the hardest part of putting aside all we care about is the playoff, but at the same time you want to compete and win every time you're on the court?
Well, I think it comes with, and you can see the maturity in the team this year. The last couple of years, my biggest thing was with, I just felt like we played too loose all the time, and then when it comes to the playoffs and you got to tighten it down a little bit, I think we struggled with that. But a lot of it just comes with maturity. I remember when we started making the playoffs and getting in and losing a first round matchup, and then eventually getting to where we're playing Boston in the Eastern semifinals and beating them in 7 games at home to get to the conference finals. It's just a learning process. You have to learn how to win regular season games. You have to learn how to win playoff games, and it is a different thing. It's a different mindset. But the good teams, they figure out a way to win games, enough games to get them good positioning for the playoffs, and then they turn on the mindset, okay, now it's playing for keeps, which is when it happens in the playoffs.
Adversity always hits everything. There's a couple of ones that have never had really much adversity, like, the Warriors in 2016. But like I always say, 73 wins don't mean nothing without the ring, because the ring is here in Cleveland. But what is the biggest key for teams to continue winning while they face adversity? Like, what's the best advice that you will have for a team in terms of when adversity hits, to stay away from the finger pointing and go into correcting the issue?
Well, I think the good teams find a way to come together when things are tough and pulling together as a team and as a unit, and not the bad teams are the finger pointers and doing the different things, and that's, I think, the difference. And it's also a mindset too, because when the season started, nobody really knew how good the Cavs were going to be. They got a new coach. There's a lot of changes going on. How quick is that going to work? And so they probably snuck up on some people, but now they're like, when you're on a 17-1 start and you're the best team in the league, all of a sudden now you're the hunted, and every team's getting up for you when they play. And I think that's another step that you've got to take, to understand when you play the Atlantas like they have the last 2 games. Those teams are looking at the Cavs like, that's a big win if we can get that win. And so you have to learn how to win the games you're supposed to win, because teams are coming after you now. You're looked at differently, you're prepared for differently, and teams hold you at a higher standard, and you got to step up to that, and that's another level of growth.
This is my 11th season with the Cavaliers, and professionally, it's the best decision I ever made to come to Cleveland. In your case, what are the things that you discovered when you moved to Cleveland back in the days? And I'm sure you love the way fans have always been. That's one of the things that always stands out when I was with the NFL, coming here and then coming to work for the Cavs, just the fans, the loyalty, and the way they support our teams. What was your experience coming in as a young kid into the Cleveland?
Yeah, I was super excited. I didn't know much about Cleveland. I grew up in Oklahoma, played college in Georgia. So, never thought much about Cleveland other than it's cold up here in the winter.
I was told the weather was like in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, and we came in, it was a little bit different scenario. In '86, we had that great draft with Brad Doherty, Ron Harper, myself, Hot Rod Williams was sitting here waiting to play. In my mind, and I tell people this, name me another draft that was better than that for one team. It was ridiculous.
Right.
But we also came into a situation where it was really, really down. The nickname were the Cadavers, at the time with a lot of the teams and the ownership things that were going on. And so you had new ownership, you had new leadership with Wayne Embry, Lenny Wilkins coming in as a coach, and all these young guys. And the thing was, and they drafted smart because, Brad was from North Carolina, I was from Georgia Tech, Ron Harper was used to winning in college. I mean, he drafted guys that were used to winning and expecting to win, and I think that's important. And once we did, it's like the Coliseum, was lit on fire. It was just such a tough place for other teams to play, to come in there. We hated it. We loved playing there. The fans were just fantastic. And, I lived in Hudson, Ohio, because we played in Richfield. And, it was just great. It was a community. And I think most of our players, were part of the community. We felt like everybody else, going to the grocery store, whatever it is. I had 3 kids. My first 3 were born while I was playing here in Cleveland. So just that relationship with the city of Cleveland, the Cleveland fans, was just something that was special and still is. I mean, I brought my youngest son up. I do some camps in the summer in the area, and my youngest son helps me some with the camps. And he wasn't here, he wasn't born when I played here, so he didn't understand when, I live in Atlanta and nobody recognizes me, or cares. And I showed up in Cleveland, everywhere we went, people were saying, hey Mark, how you doing, or whatever. And I said, yes, I said, Cleveland fans are the best. They don't forget. So thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah.
You mentioned the draft that you came in, and the Cavs go to 4 straight finals, and then the retooling came into play through the draft. Our president of basketball operations did such a great job during the year when everybody thought like, what's going on, and he was just planning to what we have right now, building through the draft. But that generation has been compared to yours. Do you see a lot of resemblance? Do you agree with that? For the last couple of years, everybody keeps saying, oh, no, I got the Mike Price and the Brad Doherty Cavs and the Larry Nance Cavs.
Well, I do see a lot of resemblances. We had really good guards. They got good guards. We had good big guys, big guys as well. And the other thing is, I think they seem to like playing with each other. We were close as a team. Brad, Larry, Hot Rod, myself, Craig Elo, Ron, when he was here. We just love playing basketball together, and I think that's important. The good teams like playing together. That's not always the case at the NBA level. You got a lot of guys, and everybody wants the next contract and all the different things that go along, but being able to navigate that and actually still enjoying who you're playing with goes a long way, and I see that with this team, and that's the way our team was as well.
I'm going to open it up for questions for all of you, but first I want to ask, because you come from a generation where one shot could have changed what we know now. I always feel like when I talk to you and about that generation, I feel like Marty McFly in Back to the Future. Like if Craig Elo had actually blocked that shot, there would be no Michael Jordan. We'll probably be talking about Mark Price, the number 25 instead of number 23. But outside Michael Jordan, who was the toughest player for you to play against in those days?
Well, it's just an amazing era of basketball that we got to play in. I mean, you think about the Celtics teams with Larry Bird and all those guys. You had the Pistons with Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars and all those guys. Obviously, you know about Chicago, but I mean, the East back then was the beast. I mean, it was crazy what you had to go through. Philadelphia with Barkley and all those guys, and Milwaukee was good, and it was just going down the list. And so, I mean, there were so many great players, from that era, some of the all-time greats. I was blessed and fortunate enough to get a chance to play against, and Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's out west.